Behöver du en bil? Mabe hyrbilar finns på över 150 platser i landet och vi har nästan lika många modeller att välja på. Mabe hyrbilar. Hyrbilar som passar dig.
Well, it's crunch time. Tonight, we find out the final 5 drivers to go to Homestead Miami and have a chance of being the series champion of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. But, of course, that will be decided tonight here at Dover for the Save the Pylons 300 here at Dover Motor Speedways. Myself, Cameron, Roger, Connery Maddock alongside me, and Dane Baird on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast as we bring you through the penultimate round of the season. And it's certainly going to be a fun one to work out all of the maths and see who the final 5 drivers are going to be. We've been through so many circuits now. We are off over on the bottom right hand side of your screen, round 19 here at Dover, 187 laps before we go to the final in a couple of weeks' time for Homestead Miami, where we will find the series champion. Round of 10 in play, so 10 drivers remain in terms of the championship, but 5 drivers will be putting themselves through. Dan Solo in the number 13 machine already secured a victory last time out in Michigan. So 4 drivers remain. Of course, Jesper Eriksson has a huge lead over the cutoff line, some 40 points in fact, but you never know what is going to happen with the drivers around that bubble. We've got the likes of Haflidsson and Dan Holmer, who are of course race winners. Haflidsson also winning the first of the playoffs back at Chicagoland. But let's see how it works out tonight. It's going to be a tricky one, a very fast track here around the concrete surface as well at Dover. It's certainly going to be a tough one. We have 187 laps. A lot of action can come very quickly around here. And Connery is certainly a mile track that is very fast and very punishing, quite difficult for the penultimate round of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be absolutely pitch perfect around here. There is not a lot of room for error whatsoever. Coming out of 2 and 4, that wall comes up on you very, very quickly at this circuit. I wouldn't be surprised if we see many cars have scraped up right-hand sides by the time this race is done. It's really an unforgiving circuit, and that's why some drivers love racing here, because they see it as this ultimate challenge, and to even get a race finished here is certainly an achievement, unscathed. So we'll see how things go. Of course, with this, we have our final opportunity to get drivers qualified into the final race of the season as far as the championship is concerned anyway. So it's a lot riding on what is going to be a very tricky race.
Yes, certainly is. 187 laps, stage at lap 75, so just short of the half distance mark, and about 70 to 75 laps is what we're expecting on the fuel as well. So also with it being a short track, you don't want to pit under green. So I think we're going to see people stretching out that fuel as long as they can in that first stint. But with the tyre drop off and the fact as well that it's a shorter track, you are going to be wanting to try and get an undercut and actually pull away. So it's going to be a tricky one if you want to commit to the green flag pit stops early, or inevitably are you going to wait and have the cautions later on. It's certainly going to be a very tricky one. We're in the qualifying session. Jesper Eriksson, who's currently second place in the championship but leading in terms of the points, is up there by 9,000ths of a second ahead of Anton Uhrmann in the 42 machine. All the drivers in blue are the ones still in play.
Absolutely, and the pressure's on their shoulders now, especially with this qualifying session, trying to get the best track position possible, at least for the early goings in the race. But like you said, we simply do not know what will happen with regards to instance and the like in this event. It's potentially one that might have a couple of cautions in it. I'm not expecting us to go green flag all the way. That would be a very, very big surprise. A very welcome one, but a very big one nonetheless. So track position, trying to keep yourself ahead of the trouble, but potentially is the important point in this qualifying session.
Especially if you're some of the drivers who are below the bubble. So P10, got Jonas Gunnarsson, of course, reigning champion from last year, but he's down there in 9th place in the qualifying, 10th place in the championship, and he is missing the cut line by some 43 points as well. So he's going to be struggling with that one. Anton Uhrmann as well. He, alongside Oscar Fredriksson, they're 28 points behind. Hafledison 21 and Dan Holmer 18. So quite some big gaps for those bottom 5. But if they win the race, they go through. And that is pretty much the only thing you have to focus on from their side, is trying to get themselves the race victory tonight and secure their space. Because that's one thing with the playoffs, Connor, is it's not just about being the drivers in terms of the season who's most consistent to get the most points. You have to win the races when it matters.
That is the exact situation that Anton Uhrmann's in at the moment, because while he's 28 points below the cut line, a race win here today would make things much easier. Let's just say that, so he doesn't have to worry about making sure that that points deficit is cleared up by the end of the day. He can just make absolutely 100% certain of it by taking the race winners. Put himself in a good position to be able to do so. Front row start, not too shabby.
Absolutely. Remember, 50 points for the race win. Another point for the pole position. Fastest laps. A couple of points for leading the most laps as well. So all sorts of bonus points. And of course, these stage points out there as well when we get to that lap 75. And it's now the important point of the championship. You've been racing since August of last year. You now don't want to mess that up and still give yourself an opportunity to try and win this championship. And Jesper Eriksson was looking good in the qualifying session. He's struggled a little bit actually in the playoffs. He hasn't had the 3 races so far in the playoffs that he would have wanted really. He would have wanted to just absolutely dominate and continue like he did at the end of the regular season. But that is sometimes how it goes in the world of racing. And you never know what is going to happen in these races. Jesper's dominated since August. He won the Formula 4 Championship, although he just lost out on the second season we did of that. Marcus Byfeld winning that last week. But he's now just got to focus on the Cup Series here as we get towards the end of the season. It's going to be a tough one for drivers lower down to work their way up, but you never know with the strategy around a track like this.
Absolutely. Drivers getting themselves ready now, of course, forming up the starting grid for this particular event. Should be a very interesting one. Take it away.
Jesper Eriksson is on the front row with Anton Uhrmann alongside him. Oliver Bohlin continuing his strong end to the season in 3rd place, and Eric Blixt is in 4th. Alexander Arvidsson is in 5th, and Peter Helmbro, that's a bit better from him, in 6th place. He's a 2-time pole position driver this season, but he has struggled in the last few races. Michael Hafledison is in 7th place alongside your series admin Linus Brustrom in 8th place. Saland and Uvenum on the top 5 rows. Gunnarsson and Dan Holmer start from the 6th row. As we see, have a pretty strong field coming to the end of this season. Dan Solo already confirmed, but what can he do to help his teammates? Rob Eriksson alongside him, and Marcus Hogman, who just missed out on going through. He was in P11 after the previous race and will no longer be going for this championship. Brewstrom is in 16th. Zackerson and Lundberg round out the 9th row of the grid. And let's see who's a bit further down here. We've got Skoglund, Jonassen, Kenneth Tier. He had a strong race last time out. Holmbom, Fagrul and Erling inside your top 24. And there should be one final driver on the back end of the grid. Yes, it is Hawkenshot in the 25th position in the 101 machine for his for Bright Esports. And he is one driver who has certainly not had the consistent season involved in a few accidents. But Connery, what can we expect today? Is it just going to be everyone pushing for the front? Or really, is there going to have to be some calmness with the strategy as well?
I mean, there's got to be some calm, otherwise we won't be getting towards the end of the race without 10 cautions. This is the very start of this event, so hopefully everyone just puts their sensible hats on and gets, 10, 20, 30 green flag laps under our belt, and then we can look at the race from that point forwards. But I think just making sure that there's no chaos on this initial start will do a long way to improving the driver's confidence in this race, in them being able to do well and finish in the good position. But we do have to get past that point first.
We certainly do, but the drivers will be pushing towards the front, especially for those 9 remaining drivers. They know they win this race and they get themselves the opportunity to win the championship in a couple of weeks' time. We're looking for the top 5 drivers in the series to put themselves through. You'll see them with the blue names, the ones who are still involved in that playoff situation. It is Ericsson, Broström, Arvidsson, Blixt, Holmer, Hafliderson, Fredriksson, Ullman and Gunnarsson. Your 9 remaining drivers trying to join themselves alongside Dan Solo in the 13 machine. And it's not going to be an easy one. 187 laps around a very tricky circuit. It's one where they're going to have to fight the tyre wear over the course of the stints. They're going to have to try and get to the stage at lap 75. And then they have to try and work out what they're going to do regarding green flag pit stops. You lose a couple of laps around here, so you don't want to pit, be a couple of laps down. Then a caution comes out, and all of a sudden, your race is going completely wrong. Fuel saving will probably be the way at the beginning of the race. However, you still need to make moves and get up towards the front. Here's a view from Jesper Eriksson in the 37 machine for Forza Esports by Morby, and he has had this view quite a few times this season. He's the winningest driver, and as he comes out of the final corner, we will get racing for the penultimate time this season, and it is going to be the Save the Scoring Pylons 300 here at Dover to finish off the round of 10. Jesper Eriksson gets us underway, and it is a good start from him as he holds his line in towards turn 1, single file already from the front 3-4 rows as they work their way through the high banks of turn 1 and 2, but everyone, they go and scrape up to the wall on the exit, but I think everyone's just about squeezed through.
Absolutely through 3 and 4 now. Like you said, all strung out single file, just running this race really very conservatively at the moment, making sure we get these laps out of the way. As we see a little bit of a challenge for position there. That's Hafliderson down the inside of Arvidsson. That's for P5 out there on circuit, and Hafliderson actually making that pass work out quite simply.
Always a bit of a move in the midfield again as they try to wear their way. I think that's Uvinen going up wide as the number 1 of Gunnarsson has the inside line on the exit of 2, following Linus Broström in behind as we come across the line once more. Such a fast track this, really heavily banked, and it's quite scary actually with the way the walls are, especially on the inside. Not much room, and they're all working their way through very nicely indeed as it stands. The top few have stayed in pretty similar positions, though Bohlin has dropped behind Blixt there for that 3rd position, but they're all staying close.
Yeah, I remember running this track a few years ago, back when I used to run the NASCAR machines a lot more often. It was always sketchy trying to dive yourself down into some of these corners because you feel like you're going way, way too fast, but that banking just carries you round and the car sticks, and then you're hoping it sticks all the way into the exit and you don't understeer and have a push wide moment right into the barrier on the outside. That is usually the cause of incidents here, but for now with the single file running, of course drivers just settling into a rhythm. Of course we might see that line change over the course of this race as this track evolves. Of course maybe we start to see some drivers creep up the circuit trying to find where that grip is, but right now it seems like the single file running to the low line is where it's at.
Some moves in the background. Salander and Broström having a bit of a ding-dong. Gunnarsson following in behind. Broström's got back pass, though, coming through 3 and 4. That is for 8th position in the 71 machine. But look at the gap, actually, there's opening up ahead. So it's actually Helmbro in the 77 that's sort of the cork in the bottle. So Broström has to go wide. I don't even think that's by choice. That might slightly open up the door, slow some drivers down. In the background is the 1 machine of Gunnarsson getting past his teammate, the 140 of Salander, up into 9th place.
Yeah, Slander just dropping in ahead of the 79 here, but he'll have a poor run coming off the corner. Helmer, you could just about see, will be able to get to his inside there as we ride on board with the 71 of Broström. As further up, you can see Gunnarsson ahead of Helmbro at this point, gives Salander the run, who's able to get himself to the inside as well. So once you have one battle, one side-by-side situation here, it kind of triggers things a little bit further down as well, as Helmer will be unable to hold it on the inside there, at least to try and make the pass complete, maintains the overlap through the next sequence though, and it looks like that 77 is just going to be hung out to dry on the outside. It's so tough out there sometimes.
5 places lost in about a lap and a half there for the 77. Maybe make that 6 as Eric Lundberg comes around his outside. Helmbro really dropping down here, as is also Dan Stoller in the 30 machine trying to make his way through. 77 not being able to hold on, and it was a bit of a cork in the bottle, so he didn't have the pace. Then as soon as one got past, he just lost that momentum, lost that rhythm. He's on the high line, couldn't get back down, and all the cars just streaming past him as Bohlin goes a bit wide there into turn 3 as well. Up ahead, Wallen's got Blix back as the top 4 pull away.
Yeah, they are trying, aren't they? But it's quite a battle back still, as Helmbro continuing to fall down the order, unfortunately. That 77 is not looking particularly fantastic at this stage. Maybe he is a long-run car. You know, maybe I'm being optimistic about it there, where it's like going to be not too great until maybe about 20, 30 laps in. But for right now, Helmbro is really, really struggling out there as we look further forward.
And one thing that we haven't actually mentioned yet, we said about win the race and you go to the championship, but what about the likes of Oliver Wallen? He's not involved. If he wins the race, he takes that opportunity away from one of the playoff drivers, and especially as a driver who's come very fast in the last maybe 6-7 races towards the end of this season. He's really, really improved in that Bright Esports entry, and he's coming for the race lead as well. He's got nothing to lose. He just wants a race win, as Ericsson's trying to block him off on the entry of turn 3, but Wallen dives to the inside, should have the run as we come down the front straightaway, but the 37 is actually looking fast on that high line, and Wallen needs to choose, does he want to risk it? No, he doesn't. Backs out of that into 1.
Yeah, a little look from the 72. He's not afraid of getting up in the faces of these playoff drivers, and well, you can't really say anything bad about that, can you? I mean, it's the same, you know, it's a race just like any other. Doesn't matter if it's playoff drivers involved or not. They want to go for the race win. Wallen will have a decent run off the corner here. We're able to get back down towards the inside here. Ericsson towards the middle of the circuit. Look at the run that Wallen has on the bottom, though. Like a rocket ship. He's to the lead.
This is very tense stuff as the drivers are fighting for a championship in behind, and Wallen is just going for a scrap himself, trying to get that race lead, and he gets it there on lap 15 as he work away through. So Ericsson needs to try and get back into the rhythm of it, as he's got Anton Uhrmann in behind, who's a driver who realistically just needs to win. He's so many points behind, he just has to win to try and get himself through, especially with the amount of drivers that we have today. Even if you have a bad race, you know, relatively speaking, going to be finishing 25th at worst. So the points gap is certainly very important as Ericsson rubs up against the wall.
Yeah, have to be careful doing that too many times. It's not, you know, you can do it a handful of times, yeah, it's just fine, but maybe, you know, cumulatively over the course of the race, you know, you're going to do some damage. So you do have to be very, very careful with it. Wallen is stretching his legs at the front of this field, though. He's got up towards a half a second now over the rest of the field. I do fear that he's burning up his tyres by doing that, and he'll drop back into the clutches of these guys a little bit later on in the stint. But right now, it seems like there's no stopping that number 72 at the front of the field.
Looking very good, but don't want to burn out the tyres. There's some moves in the background. Eric Lundberg was fighting in the low end of the top 10. He's got past Gunnarsson. Holmer is just on the back of them as well. Brewstrom has made his way up a couple of positions up into P7, but there's a bit of a gap forming ahead of him with Aradsson in a little bit of no man's land as he's dropped off the back of Haflidsson. But we are really in a 5-way battle at the front, because Haflidsson has caught back up to the top 4 due to the battling that we've had. So it is certainly staying very close indeed. Remember, stage lap 75, and that's roughly what we think the fuel number is going to be. So are some people going to go flat out and go for an undercut, hit a bit early, or do they want those extra stage points?
Yeah, that's a big decision. It's very intriguing that we have the stage right at the end of a fuel stint, so that they're going to have to be a little bit conservative on the fuel to be able to get there. Remember, we had a couple of laps of pacing as well, so that certainly isn't going to help the situation there. So we'll see if anyone stretches it out. You know, it's good that we've got 20 green flag laps under our belt right now. That's probably 20 more than I expected, knowing Dover. But yeah, it's looking great right now. Of course, we've got that front pack going on with these drivers, these 5 drivers. Of course, 4 of them are in the playoff system here at the moment. A couple of sorts of position a little bit further down. That secondary pack is still as feisty as ever, and it seems like the guys at the front are just a tad more relaxed than those back there.
Absolutely, and one thing we have to think about a bit later on this race is potential traffic and the traffic management if we stay with these long green flag runs. As Lundberg and Gunnarsson continue their battle, they swapped 3 or 4 times over the last 3 or 4 laps, pretty much once a lap, but now it's Gunnarsson back ahead in that one machine as Brustrom has just pulled away. This is a 7-car battle coming through turns 1 and 2 there, and they need to be very careful with the gaps opening up ahead, but it is one of those situations as well. If you're fast, you just got to make a move on the car ahead of you.
I mean, there's a 5-second gap right now between the leading pack and this big gaggle of the rest of the field. So there's an absolute rift between those top drivers and the rest for the moment. Of course, the best of the rest currently headed up by Alexander Ericsson, but 5 seconds, a track as short as this is almost like 30 seconds on a road course. It's quite large.
Yeah, definitely. And especially with how fast the corners are as well. Relatively speaking, you lose less time in the fast corners just because of physics. But I guess maybe because of the toughness as well. It's not just the actual bank, it's like the elevation change. There's this sort of like hump in and out as well. You have to be very careful with the line that you take. You see they're really banked, even on the straights as well. It's not flat. Pretty crazy track we have here. As we see the onboard of Dan Solo, your race winner from last time out, and look just how close you have to follow the cars around here. Is he going to be half looking to the inside? Actually, no, it's up ahead of him, making a move in towards the inside of turn 1, and this is going to be Holmer trying to get that position on Lundberg that Gunnarsson did a couple of laps ago. I think he should do it, but he had a bit of a wiggle there, wasn't able to get the power down, coming out to 2. That's going to open the door for 13 on the outside.
Yeah, let's see if your car can grip up there. It looks fine for the moment. Can he carry it through to the exits? Of course, you're always tempted to lift off a little bit to make sure you don't get too close to the wall there. Solo committing to the outside. Might even be looking to the outside on Lundberg here. Instead of trying to defend from Holmer, he's looking to try and press on forward. Grazes the wall a little bit. Drag race down the back straight. Into 3 they come. Solo's making that high line work.
He certainly is, but not without some risk, because he might be able to get both of them. He does so as he gets past Lundberg and Holmer, who continued their own battle in towards the next sequence of corners. And up the inside, Lundberg is going to be. Can he hold on to that P11? No, he doesn't. Holmer gets that one back to the yellow Street Trends machine, dropping down 3 places. And look at the gap that this battle has opened up to Gunnarsson ahead. So batting around here really does lose you a lot of time.
Yeah, it stacks everyone up. That's where the vast majority of that 5-second gap between the leading pack and the rest of the field has come from. It's because of those early battles that we had, with drivers, with Helmro, for example, dropping down the field, and all the side-by-side that's happened there. But Lundberg's ending up losing a couple of positions here as well. Gustoni Uvenen has made his way by. Andre Selander has also made his way through. So Lundberg's not having the best of times at the moment, but the battle for P2 is still raging on. There's Haflidason, there's Ericsson as well, and Bohlin just sort of sitting there cruising at the very front of the field in that Cyan code machine. But yeah, it's sort of a tale of 2 races at the moment. You've got this leading pack, and then you've got the rest.
Yeah, oh, that's a huge one off into the wall. That's a 37 of Jesper Eriksson. Massive wiggle there as they come down the front straightaway. Oh, that's going to be tight as the 95 makes contact, trying to slow down, not run up. As in the background, Anton Uhrmann has dropped off a little bit from this battle. He's got some huge damage there. And that's absolutely a game changer potentially if we go caution, but I think he should be able to get it back.
Yeah, that car is going to need crucial repairs. Down on towards the pit lane he comes. We're still under green flag racing here, but that could have been so easily our first caution. And again, he's going to have to continue it down the back straight here. No way. There's no split pit lane business like Bristol Motor Speedway here. You're going to have to carry it around for the entirety of the lap. But looking back towards the front of the field, battle for the race lead might also be on now.
Certainly, because there's the 81 of Haflidason down the inside. He pushes the 71, 72 I should say, up wide as he comes through turn number 4 there. He should have that inside line. Can he make it stick? He's going to have to work for it for a good mile around the full length of this track, because Oliver Wallen is not letting this one go. Side by side we go for the race lead. Up towards the wall they go. They leave each other just in about enough space, but the Sheriff's machine on the inside is still trying to fight this. At one point the 72 42, I think, is going to just lose momentum, and it might be this point here, which he does. And after 2 laps of work, Haflidason goes to the front.
Yeah, absolutely. How much of that is due to Bohlin burning up the tyres, because he had a great opening, 20, 30 laps, but now potentially struggling with the tyre performance because he did too much too early. And now we might see Haflidason stretch his legs at the front of the field here, but we'll see if Bohlin's able to keep up with him. But here's a replay of exactly what happened. We're on board with Oman. It's going to be Ericsson ahead that just gets a little bit loose. Car snaps on him, and there's no way, really, Oman can really avoid that situation. The car was going to wash up the circuit, and the walls here at Dover, they act like a funnel. There's absolutely nowhere to go.
I see. Then there was secondary contact through turn 1 as well. I was wondering how he got so much damage, but yeah, it was 2 contacts. The first one, and to be honest, I'm surprised Jesper Eriksson is still going at some decent pace. That was a huge hit on the wall on the exit of the corner there, and unfortunately, as you say, just ping-ponging back into the line of Anton Ullman, who could do nothing about that as the playoff struggles continue for your regular season champion, the one who everyone sort of expects to win this championship, but he's not making it easy for himself. Huge slide there, and big hit into the wall.
Big hit into the wall. I'm just keeping an eye on his lap times, and you're right. Like, he's not off the pace. I mean, he's running. Well, last time was a 10th of a second slower than your leaders, so it's not completely gone there for Ericsson. So he's really gotten away with it here. Meanwhile, Oman is sitting on pit lane, just going, "Why couldn't that have been me with the minimal damage? I'm having to sit here with required repairs as a meatball flag."
Yeah, that's such a shame for Ullman in the 42. He's had some struggles this season every now and again, but the pace was looking good today. As to be fair, it actually was last time out as well. Michigan, the Alcantech cars, all running well together, and that is why he is still in this championship hunt. But with that meatball and being in the pit lane, I don't see any way that he's going to be able to get enough points to advance from this stage. So let's unfortunately say goodbye to the championship hopes. But there's always next season to come back.
Yeah, of course, Oman, a driver that's on the controller. We don't often see it, and obviously it wasn't to blame for that one. It's just an unfortunate set of circumstances. But it's impressive that he's able to go so quick on a controller because of various issues that he has. So it was a great season so far. Got to this playoff stage, but unfortunately for Oman, I think this is where it ends, at least as far as his title hopes goes.
Yeah, especially as he was minus 20 out of the cut line, so it really needed to be winning the race. That is, definitely not going to be happening from this stage. Already 9 laps down, such is the laps around here. 22 seconds, well, we're into the 23, some in the 24s now, but still a very quick lap around here as we are seeing Haflidason there leading the way. He's got half a second to Bohlin, and now they've got 2.5 seconds back to Eric Blix, as that has spread out a little bit with the contact. We go a little bit further down. This is the 79 machine. That's Dan Holmer in 9th place. He's got Dan Solo ahead of him in the 13 machine. Tony Uvenon in the independent entry in behind, having a strong run once again.
Yeah, it's great seeing these guys so close together. You got to see Holmer just getting a little bit close to the wall here. We'll lose a little bit of momentum as a result. So Uvenom is able to get a nose in to the inside here, coming out of 4. We'll make it almost level on the way down in towards 1. And we'll see how these guys sort out their differences. Of course, battle at the end of the top 10 here. Uvenon, a driver that's not in the playoff stage and has to back out of it because he almost washed straight up into Holmer, who was quickly running out of room.
The exit of 2 and 4 here, I mean, you're mentioning it early in the race, it's so dangerous. Yeah. And the drivers are going side by side. It's quite incredible. We saw Ericsson losing it himself. Imagine if that happened when he had a car up against him. That would have been a huge crash in behind. But I do love these challenging, shorter circuits. It really is good fun compared to the super speedways, as we see Uvenon there get up the inside. Holmer leaves him plenty of room. Can the 84 get the run onto the front straightaway? I think he should just about have that. Holmer, 2-time race winner this season. Back to back he went during the mid part, but now as he's tried to hold on to P9, he's still looking good.
Yeah, looking good indeed. And yeah, you're right about these walls, though. You feel tense watching them. Just imagine driving it. It's tension lap on lap on lap. And I certainly remember one of these circuits as one of the most challenging, but one of the most fun in a sort of adrenaline junkie way. Like, it's like, because you never know which lap you're going to pin it into the wall. So yeah, it is great fun. But we're on board with Alexander Araldson here in the, currently in 4th place, chasing down Eric Blixt in the number 95 directly ahead. These two just tangoing amongst themselves at the moment. They're not part of any battle pack, but they're running around together, and Bohlin and Haflidsson a good couple of seconds down the road.
And the good thing for these guys is they're already inside the top 5 in terms of the points. So if they finish in the top 5 in this race, then they're pretty much guaranteed a space as well. As we see the inside of turn number 1 is going to be the door open for the 24 to get through into that 3rd place. Eric Blixt, smart driver, is going to just slot in behind, not try and go side by side on the exit, as the 24 is now going to try and run away. And of course, Araldson, he won a couple of races ago at Richmond to lock him inside this top 10, which was the 2nd round of the top round of 15. Can he win the 2nd round of the round of 10? Let's find out. Still plenty of time to go, but that stage is coming up very quickly.
It really is. Time flies when you're having fun. We've gone green since the very start of the race. We did have an awkward situation where a caution could have easily happened, but everyone kept it pointed in the right direction, and but unfortunately Anton Oman is out of the race as a result of that incident, and yeah, he's disconnected from the server pretty much at this stage, so won't be returning, won't be getting that car back out there, and that's his championship's hopes ended. So
ooh, was that Ericsson again? I think in the background, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Well, someone slapped the wall, and it was the 37, and potentially that was in the same corner as well. So Brewstrom gets past him. Now Gunnarsson is going to be getting a run, as the 37 must have even more damage, and I would doubt if he's able to hold the speed once more. Yeah, just slides the rear end up there, and is actually halfway down the straight. That is a huge slide, really losing the rear.
Yeah, he's going to have to sort that out if he's going to get to the end of this race and see the checkered flag. He's being challenged currently by Gunnarsson, who decides against continuing on the move. So the number 1 just sort of settles in behind at this stage. But yeah, the walls at Dover have not been too friendly for Ericsson. He gets it sideways again and almost bins it again.
Yeah, that car's definitely got some damage on it now, as the balance is really not loving the car in that 37. He's really struggling to hold on to that one. Let's see this again. So the entry isn't too bad. He looks fairly okay, but then it's when he's getting on the power on the 80, you can see already he's wiggling, and then huge slide once more. And the issue is you don't accelerate off the corner, so the car behind gets a bit choked up as well.
And ironically, I think Gunnarsson actually saved him from a spin there, because that contact with the rear seemed to settle things a little bit for Ericsson. But yeah, he's really struggling off of 2 there. That is not a very happy car in the traction zones. And now we see Gunnarsson down the inside, able to take the position. And yeah, Ericsson's so sketchy off of every single one of these corners. It's nerve-wracking to see. I can't imagine what it'd be like to drive at the moment, knowing that you have that bit of oversteer coming up.
It's very, very difficult to drive like that, because you don't know what's going on with the car. If you have a car that's very tight, it might be a bit slower, but at least you know what it's going to do. It's always just going to push through the corner, whereas when it's loose, you don't know when that rear is going to step out. The 71, though, diving out the inside, slow but sure progress as he gets inside the top 4 now, and is still only about 5 seconds off the lead, despite everything, all the battles that he's been in. The 95 gives him a push down the straight as well. So I think the 71 is looking pretty good. Maybe just conserve the tyres a little bit more as we get into the latter parts of this tyre stint.
I mean, Linus has been one of the drivers in the series, and in general, even years and years ago when I used to race against him, he was always one of the better drivers on tyres. So this situation where he's making some progress late on in the stint is not surprising to me in the slightest. And, you know, in a comfortable 4th place at the moment, he would have hoped for a better qualifying. Otherwise, I think he would be in and amongst that leading pack at the moment. But right now, this long green flag stint has really helped Linus trying to get himself back up the order and into a very, very good position.
So we're looking at a a two-stop race. They're going to have to make 2 stops on fuel. It just depends whether you go full tank, and then splash, or if you sort of split the race up in 3. And we're getting roughly to about third race distance. So someone who wants to go a little bit earlier and try get the undercut, if they expect us to go green, they might start thinking about pitting in the next 5 laps or so to really make that undercut work, because we're already about a second, maybe about 1.2, 1.3 seconds off the pace in terms of tyre wear. So if you pit early, and of course you get about 5 to 10 laps, you're going to be getting, you know, a quarter or half a lap ahead by the time they come out of the pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tricky, and actually, our producer, the wonderful Dane Baird, is mentioning that since everyone is so spread out, it's actually going to be quite a difficult pit stop phase here, because everyone is not going to be able to find a gap to be able to come down in and then come back out again. It's always going to be amongst other drivers, so some coordination is required potentially here for this to all be done safely, and for the drivers to just sort of be aware of their surroundings about when people are coming in and out.
Yeah, it's going to be very awkward when we start getting some blue flags. So that's Eric Lundberg. So he was one of the first drivers to go in. He is multiple laps down though, so obviously he's had some further issues. Maybe there was some repairs going on there. Yeah, he had a longer stop. He had a 1 minute 50 total time in the pit lane compared to the 48 of some other drivers who've come in. We have Oliver Bohlin from up towards the front. He has come down pit road, so this will be potentially the floodgates opening for those drivers who want to commit on this earlier stop. But remember, some drivers, they will try and stay out to that stage, which is lap 75, but therefore you actually need to get fuel to lap 76 by the time you'll be able to get it into the pit box.
Yeah, this is about the right time for those that are splitting evenly into 2 stops the race. So they'll come down in now, and they'll probably also end up coming down in at lap 138 or 136 or something to that effect, to then be able to get to the end of the race. But yeah, as you said, Oliver Bohlin down and in, and you can see he gets cycled all the way back into P20, and some of these drivers will end up being 2 laps down. So yeah, that's going to be a sketchy situation for them. At least it's temporary until the rest of the field comes down in.
So there's Aronson, who's second place. So it's basically 2 laps and about a straight. So about 2.25 laps, let's call it, that you lose from a green flag stop. Well, actually, I guess he wasn't in the lead. So yeah, approximately, let's call it that. Close enough. So about 2 laps that you lose around here. So if we go caution now, he is going to be struggling a little bit. But if we go green, he's now going to be getting an undercut. And let's see just how much he closes down on that 24. It'll probably only be a couple more laps before he gets past, maybe even less than that. Look how much speed he's already gaining through that sequence of corners.
Yeah, the difference between new and old tyres here is absolutely massive. So he's going to send it down the inside here and get that done. But you can see, it's a little bit of, confusion with, this amount of drivers trying to pit all at the same time. But we only have 25 cars out here. Imagine 40, right? Trying to find the space to be able to do anything would be impossible. But yeah, these guys dealing with it well at the moment.
Yeah, certainly are. We haven't really seen too many issues, even when they're going side by side for their battles. But now the next car up ahead is Michael Havlidson's. This is to get back onto being just 1 lap down and straight around the outside. I mean, that is multiple car lengths just in 1 corner that he's getting past. So he's really got the speed at this point in the race, going past more cars around the outside there. And I think may have just almost his personal best lap, just a couple of tenths of his personal best lap of the race as well. So the speed is there in that 72 machine, trying to make this undercut work. But the stage coming up for lap 75, I would assume that Havlidsson is staying out for that.
Yeah, I think so. That could be the strategy that he's going for. We'll have to see. Of course, he'll be put off strategy compared to everyone else now, especially if we go green flag all the way. We'll see how this one works out. Of course, those that come down in about 8 laps ago, they'll be down in about 127 next time with their next stop. I did say 137, but obviously I added 10 laps accidentally to that. But obviously he's then in a different situation. Is he going to go for the maximum fuel stints, from that point forward, and then have a short stint at the end, hoping for a caution? That's what Havlidsson is. He's sort of backed himself into a corner with this now.
And he's just got to commit to get those extra 10 points. Someone in the pit lane that's quite interesting, though, is Jesper Eriksson. How long is his stop going to be? There must be damage on the car. Is he going to take any of those? Everyone is doing roughly 14 to 15 second stops. Is his going to be going up any more? No, I think... No, I think he just took a normal stop. So that's interesting. Maybe they were able to do some repairs during that time. But if not, he's going to be going around with some damage still on that vehicle.
Yeah, you are able to manage a second or so when you're actually getting the pit stop service done in terms of the optionals. But whether or not that's enough for Ericsson, well, that still remains to be seen. On the fresher tyres now, so we can't get a direct comparison between him and someone who's on the same strategy. But he might have made potentially some adjustments during the pit stop phase as well to try and solve whatever loose issue that he was having coming out some of these corners.
Yeah, that's true. Any adjustment that you can do might have helped him. And I do wonder if that was just something, maybe, setup related, or if there was some further issues going on there. We'll have to find out as we come across the line to start lap 75. And it looks like it is going to be the 81 of Michael Hafliderson. He came through the pack quite nicely, actually, worked his way up towards the front and then has stayed out. Some of his rivals have pitted, they've dropped back, but he will come around the final corner, and subject to him having enough fuel, yes he does, he's going to come around and win the stage and collect those extra 10 playoff points. That could be oh so crucial in his bid to get above the cut line. Expect him in next time around though, as he will have to cover off from the undercut of Oliver Bohlin, and we'll have to see what the gap is like when he gets there.
Yeah, it'll be an absolutely humongous undercut. Oh, yes, a Dodger car that was trying to come down on towards pit lane as well. Not sure if he was intending to come in then, or if he just found himself in a situation where he does still need to continue on and get these laps done. But that would have been a sketchy time to pit, because he had a car parked on the low line and definitely wouldn't have been able to slow down for it.
Interesting. I was expecting him to go, but I guess he was able to do one more lap. He'll come down pit road this time around. Alredson, Helmbro, Blixt, Robert Eriksson and Erling have all come in last time around. So they got to lap 76 and more drivers continue on. Gunnarsson takes the lead. So definitely a little bit more fuel saving going on than we were expecting, but that is one thing. When you have the cautions, you want to be out obviously on the road on that lead lap, but we have some drivers coming in, and this is where the strategy is going to start. So if they do the same stint again, what would that be? That would be 154. So they're going to have about 35 laps, let's call it, at the end of the race to take. So it'll be about half a tank of fuel later on. So Oliver Bohlin will have slightly more fuel to take, but he's got a huge undercut. It's been about 15 laps or so since his pit stop. So expect him to have quite a lead by the time everyone comes out of the pit lane.
Yeah, so Hafliderson already down to 7th as he stays down on the apron. You can only come back onto the live racing circuit after turn 2 here, and he's got a slow car on the inside, which is not ideal, so he's going to have to go the long way around that. Not sure why Bjorn Broström was going so slow, coming off of pit lane there, not getting up to speed, but that's just the situation that Hafliderson had to deal with. Meanwhile, got other cars coming in, so Gunnarsson coming in, Holmer in as well, so they've stretched the fuel out as long as possible. They've got to lap 80 on their stints here, so that's some good information for those drivers. And
I think Oliver Bohlin, we'll have to wait exactly once these gaps sort of open themselves up, but I mean, he's leading by 15.5 seconds. That's a huge undercut from Michael Hafliderson there. So he's gained about 2/3 of a lap. Of course, he's going to be out of sequence later on, but surely that has worked quite nicely, because he will potentially get an undercut again later on. So what he's got to focus on now is his tyres are going to be older, so that gap will come back down. But if he can still hold that maybe to about a 10-second gap, I think that's definitely a very good net gain.
Yeah, well, we'll see, I guess, because, I mean, at the previous race, we had a very sharp drop-off on the tyres, at least for the first 10 laps of things, and then everything kind of stabilised out afterwards, and there wasn't so much of a difference between new and old tyres, or at least with a 10-lap difference, 8-lap difference, whatever you make it. So yeah, we'll have to see. So Havlicen will be gaining quite a bit over the next couple of laps, that is for sure, maybe over 10-15 laps, but we'll see how much it stabilizes out after the fact, and if he's gaining by absolute massive gaps every single time, or whether or not it stabilizes.
Yeah, he's already getting about half a second, but Bohlin had some traffic there. But then I guess everyone's going to have traffic at this point in the race. You mentioned it earlier. Imagine if we had 40 cars. It's a tricky track. Might be a 1 miler, but there's not much space around there. So Bohlin leads. He's got 15 seconds to Havlicen. Eracingligan in behind. Havlicen got the stage points. We now only have 7 drivers on the lead lap, and actually that is the driver ahead there of Bohlin. So that is why I think Helmbro's fighting this so hard. Of course, A, he can by the rules, but B, he wants to stay on that lead lap.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those occupational hazards that you have to deal with as the leader, going then side by side ahead of him. Although that 10 will get out of the way in that situation. That's Cedric Holmbaum, who's quite far down the field, P21 at this stage. But you can see that gap, 14 seconds. It will slowly but surely tick down and down and down as Havlicen is able to lean on those tyres a little bit and catch right back up. But yeah, I mean, if this goes green all the way, I think that's the situation where splitting the race up evenly might work out. But if there's a caution at an inconvenient time for Bohlin here, that plays directly into the hands of Havlicen, and he's going to be laughing.
He certainly will. So lap 87 of 187, so 100 laps remaining, but they go fast around this track, and there's definitely a lot of strategy there's still left to be played out. We've got a pit stop left for everyone, and we have the potential for cautions along the way. We still have 9 drivers trying to lock themselves into the final position in the playoffs for the top 5. A little rub up against the wall there. Solo's got his name already on the board. Anton Uhrmann is already out of this, so it's between Gunnarsson, Fredriksson, Havlicen, Holmer, Blixt, Aronson, Brewstrom and Ericsson to get those final places. So no mistakes from them. And you got all the blue names almost up inside the top 10, so they're really pushing for this one.
Yeah, Holmer really wants to be try and push at this stage, because obviously he's just underneath the cut line. He really needs a good performance here, and finishing where he's at the moment is not going to be the order of the day. So yeah, going to need a little bit more in this. After we get over the 100 laps here, just try and see if he can push on forwards. But it's always tricky here, as we see Bohlin just about squeeze past Gunnarsson. Gunnarsson is going to go back to his inside here. This is battle with lead lap cars, not lead lap cars, but it's you can see Bohlin having to get out of the way of some of the cars that are pitted earlier and are on that alternate strategy, no matter if they're lap down or not.
Yes, they're effectively unlapping themselves, aren't they? So that's a 13. So it was all the Alconsec cars in a row, and this is the situation. He's already had his candy. He's had the fast tires, and now it goes around. He's already been on those tires for, coming up for 30 laps already. It's really been out there quite a long time. So the drop off is really going to be there, whereas these other drivers are trying to chase him down. And let's look at the pace. What is the pace difference going to be? It was about 0.6 of a second last lap already, the difference between these two.
Yeah, yeah, it's being that time being lopped off lap after lap after lap, and I think we have a lap every 20 seconds here. It's being reeled in and quick, but is it enough, for Havlicen to work it out on this strategy? Because I would argue it is the worst strategy. However, you get compensation because of the fact of the of the stage system, right? So yeah, it's a very interesting one. It's a very interesting one indeed. How much do you offset the stage win with being worse in the overall strategy and potentially getting a worse overall finish, right?
Yeah, you're right. If we didn't have a stage, I don't think all of those drivers would have stayed out so long.
Yeah.
If it was just a straight fight to the end. But then that is why we have the stage, to have something a little bit to play for in the sort of first half or first third of the race, pretty much that it was this time around. So the gap between the P1 and P2, Oliver Waller and Haflidsson, is now down to 11 seconds. So it's already come down 4.5 in the last 20 laps, or just shy of 20 laps before the pit stop. So that is going to be very interesting. That's sort of an average of 0.2 a lap or so. Let's see if that one continues.
Absolutely, we're still caution free at this stage as well. We're getting to we are past the halfway point at this stage, and we are in a situation where we've been green since the very drop of the initial green flag, and we've had a couple of moments here and there where we could be close to cautions, but none of it has arrived yet. I am currently touching wood, making sure I'm not giving the curse of the commentator on this race, but I mean, we've already had our producer curse a thing already, but right now this is quite pleasant.
Yeah, you should have seen the producer curse we had back at Phoenix. It was the best thing ever. He, I think it might have been Hugo at the time doing the production. He zoomed in on Barney the flagman, and as soon as he did, went caution. It was so perfectly timed, and Lewis McGlade still says commentator's curse isn't a thing.
Scripted.
Yeah, scripted. Absolutely. Dane says it was him, so I'll give him the credit for that one. Perfectly timed, and it's kind of similar. Earlier, Dane was like, "Oh, we've gone green for quite a while," and then Jesper Eriksson slaps it against the wall. So you can never be too careful around a track like this as we're coming on towards lap 100, and Oliver Waller leads, but is now down under 10 seconds. A look at this gaggle of cars chasing him down, and now these boys are about less than 20 seconds behind.
Yeah, and they're all they're all not giving each other too many issues. Of course, a lot of them are from the same team, so they won't give each other issues. But yeah, if they can form up and run around together, potentially they can keep each other out of each other's hair, and then make sure that they're all in the best position possible to be able to get back inside the top 5 and make a challenge for this race. But yeah, it's it's a bit of an armada back here, isn't it? It
really is. As when the teammates find themselves on track, it is quite something to see. Just all of them working together. But look how many cars are on screen right now. I know it's a short track, but this is intense racing. As you go over the 100 lap mark onto lap 102, we are on. And these drivers all trying to chase down the leader. Oliver Waller, he got the undercut, he got the track position, but he does not have the speed, and they've almost halved his gap up towards the front, and they're chasing him down just slowly by, surely but surely. But last lap around actually was similar time between Waller and Gunnarsson, so it has stabilized just a little bit. I know they're in a bit of traffic right now, but as these guys' tyres are now starting to wear, they're going to have less of an advantage to catch up.
Yeah, they are. That's the important point. I did mention that you get the best performance out of these tires for the first 15 or so laps, and then it sort of kind of equalizes out. You of course do have a little bit extra performance, but not the delta that you had previously at the very start of the stint. So that's a situation that they'll have to manage. If this race goes green, we've only got about 30 minutes left here, so that's an interesting situation. Haflidsson continuing to catch at this stage, but of course in about 20 laps time, that's when those that are splitting the race evenly are looking to come down in again.
Yeah, it's going to be a strategic call from these drivers when they want to come out, and especially for Oliver Waller as well. Went a bit shorter in that first stint, so he does have some extra time to, some extra laps to keep up. But is he going to be just splitting into thirds, or is he going to try and stretch it out a bit further so he's a bit less offset with tyres, but then he loses the undercut. So it's a bit of a game of which one do you want? Do you want the newer tyres, or do you want to get the track position? And therefore it also depends on how we go with the cautions. Blix makes it down the inside of the 37, Jesper Eriksson. The 13 of Dan Solo, who's just been working his way up the field after not a great qualifying, is going to be getting past. Eriksson will still have a little bit of damage on that car, but he's keeping it up inside the top 10.
Having a look at Haflidson's lap times, it was about 0.3 of a second, 3.5 tenths of a second gain on that last lap, and it was slightly less for, well, we'll actually see when he comes across the line now as we see the battles raging on a little bit further down. But yeah, that lead gap, I mean, it's still coming down for about 3 or 4 tenths a lap. So maybe not 6 or 7 tenths a lap like we saw earlier, but still, still lopping off the time.
And it's getting to that squeaky bum time as well now with 6.5 seconds. That's getting to the point where they'll be able to see him just about down the front stretch, maybe ever so slightly not, but another second or so and they certainly will. And that's when Oliver Waller will be looking in the mirrors. And remember, he is basically a lap lead of some of these drivers at some point. As good as some is making some moves on Uven, trying to continue on with his battle there. As we see Jesper Eriksson just dropping further and further down, not having the pace that he would have wanted or the comfortability in that car. Helmbro's going to get through up inside the top 10 too.
Yeah, so on the recovery drive from that poor start, all things considered for the 77, it's great to see him sort out whatever issues he was having and start to get back in this. Better late than never, I suppose, as we're on board with Haflidsson here at the moment as he tries to chase down your race leader. He's been okay coming off the corners recently. There were a few occasions where he kind of tagged the wall a little bit, but who hasn't here at this circuit as he just narrowly avoids it here. You just want to get close enough just to not hit it, and that's the fastest way of going around here. It's really like sort of Monaco but an oval, right? You get as close to the walls as possible, but don't touch them.
Yeah, definitely, because every little inch that you make the exit wider, obviously you're going to go faster. If there was no wall there and they could go, 3-4 feet further to the right, they would do that because it's faster. You can take more speed out of the corner, but the wall is there. And therefore, if you can just get 1 millimeter away from the wall, then that is absolutely perfect. You've used all of the road that you can as Blix gets past Uvenen. Although actually Uvenen gets him back for P number 6. So a few drivers, the likes of Uvenen and Wallen, getting involved in this top 10 with all the playoff drivers. I love to see it, taking some points away. And because effectively it's almost one place per position. But if you get a driver who's not involved in the playoffs in between you, then it's effectively a 2-point difference, which is quite a bit.
Yeah, especially when everyone is so close. It might, those extra points might end up mattering at the end of this one, depending on the exact permutation you're talking about. As you can see, Uvenen trying to defend here from Holmer, who really seriously needs to try and gain positions at this stage. He's just outside of the cut point, so those couple of extra points going down the inside is going to be very, very helpful. And actually, Uvenen in the wall there will let Hakan Schut through as well.
And it's at that point where we're starting to see the differential tyres come into play in some of these battles, I think. Is that Eriksson going further back? It is. Solander's going to get past for P11. The 37 looking in his mirrors. And it's been a continued struggle in these playoffs. Just as long as he works it out in Miami in a couple of weeks' time, that will be all that he cares about. He did the work to get the big gap. That it doesn't really matter if he has a bad playoff. To be honest, he's going to have the points to get there realistically. But he just needs to turn that around. That's another big slide there from Eric Blixt inside your top 6.
Our producer is determined to curse this race. As he said, this has been the cleanest race at Dover I've ever seen. Watch us get a yellow flag now in the next 2 laps.
I wouldn't be surprised the way some of these drivers are going, because they're having some wiggles and some difficulties. We're getting quite far into the stint. Let's have a look. Yeah, Wallen already 55 laps. I mean, the shortest one's still about 33, I see. Most of them in the high 30s. So we've been out there quite a long time now. And it was about 77 for Havlidsen, but it's about 60 or so for Bohlin. So already about 5 laps time, we might see the likes of Bohlin come back in if they're splitting the race into thirds. See, this is where it doesn't work, Dane, because this is where you're forcing it. And the commentator's curse doesn't work that way. It works when you just randomly do it without thinking.
Yeah, there's got to be no intention behind it. That's the way it works. Otherwise, it's never going to happen. So when we take Barney Watch camera off, that's going to be the situation when it happens. So you kind of have to keep it up there constantly now, don't you?
I think so, but I do like Barney Watch actually there on the front straight. Certainly an intense one watching them get close to that wall on the exit of 4. And something that we do need to keep our eye on now is the gap between P1 and P2. We are now down to 3 seconds. It's been a long run for Havlidsen to get up there, but another 0.3 on the previous lap. And the drivers in behind also starting to close down a bit. It is getting very, very tight for Oliver Bohlin. I think he might just be able to survive to his pit stop if he splits the race into thirds. But what he could do now is he could basically just go as long as he can and try and hold on to this P1, maybe just go down to P2, P3, but then at least he might be able to be a bit closer on the tyres when we get to that final stint, because otherwise, if he does it again, this is going to be the situation with the final 5 laps, and Havlidsen is just going to steam him on newer tyres. Yeah,
that's the awkward situation that he potentially wants to avoid. Do you commit to the strategy? Do you try and cover off the strategy here? That's the choice that Bohlin needs to make. He's going to get stuck up behind a bit of lap traffic here as well, which is not going to help the situation. That time is going to drop down to a second, and Bohlin is probably going to be in the next 5 laps, I would say. 5 laps, though, with like a 0.4 of a second being lopped off. That's pretty much there for Havlidsen.
Yeah, I think he needs to stay out until Havlidsen catches him, basically. He does want to get caught in a fight, and he doesn't really want to let Havlidsen get ahead and effectively gain track position. So if Bohlin can keep ahead until it's a decent time to pit, then I think that's when he should come in. Dane says he should commit to the early stops. I'm not 100% sure of what the best one would be on the maths, but I'm sure his team are trying to work that one out.
Yeah, down to 1.5 seconds now. Any sign of Oliver Bohlin bringing that car down on towards the pit lane? Not at the moment. As he'll head his way through, he's dealt with a little bit of lap traffic here. Here will be the telling sign on the way down in towards 3. No, doesn't get towards that low line just yet. We'll continue at least one more as Havlidsen is slowly but surely closing him down almost within a second now.
Yes, he can see him. He can smell the blood, as they say, of Oliver Bohlin, who just can't keep it down there on the inside of turns number 1 and 2. And onto the back straight we go. Havlidsen is now inside a second for the Alcantech team. He won the race of the playoffs a couple of rounds ago. Can he win another? It was at Chicagoland that he won. Then we had Eracingligan in Richmond, Dan Solo in Michigan. And now who is going to win here at Dover? For the Save the Scoring Pylons 300 is getting close, and I think Havlidsen just another lap or so and he should have it.
Bohlin down and in. Just as Havlidsen gets there. Oh, watches back up onto the circuit. That could have been so sketchy. Bohlin getting the car slowed down now for pit lane. Havlidsen back to the race lead while that happens, but wow, that was sketchy. You could see he was on the limit.
Oh my, I thought we were seeing a huge crash there as Bohlin was going as fast as he could into the pit lane whilst still making it in. Any faster and there would have been a crash there with the 81, or he would have not been able to get down. So just shy of 60 laps to go. So it is slightly offset by a few laps. But again, I think that was the perfect lap, because one more lap and Havlidsen would have been on behind. Let's see this once again. Coming to the inside of 3. So trying to keep it on the inside of the apron and just sliding up. I tell you what, that was very close considering that's a race win and potential championship implications on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. full commitment down the inside there. Remember, we have to remember that Bohlin is not a driver that's part of this playoff stage. He's just looking to get the race win. As he's completed his stops now, he's going to come out onto the back straight. There he is. And of course, that 2 laps down. Here's the replay of it. Here's the wash back up from the apron onto the circuit. Oof. If the timing was just slightly wrong there, that would have been catastrophic.
I'm sure Haflidason will, a bit of sweat, even more sweat on his eyebrow with that one. And you can see just in behind him is Oliver Bohlin. Oh, this is going to be a good shot. Oh, inches, loads of room, loads of room. You can get a bus through there.
Fun fact though, I was a couple of weeks ago, I was a witness to an accident between a bus and a car where the bus tried to squeeze through a gap. So had to give my details and my witness statement to the police. But I know all about buses trying to go for gaps, and that was definitely not big enough though.
Rolls reversed around the outside though for the 72. He gets back past and is going to be trying to increase his track position lead that he will have. But of course, once again, going back to being a lap down, as Haflidason will be staying out as long as possible to have the freshest tyres and the best overtaking opportunity at the end. Some more pit stops coming in. Gunnarsson, Blix, Salander, all teammates from Alcantech, they come in. But their other teammate, the 81 of Haflidason, he stays out.
Yeah, commits to the strategy, of course. Hoping that a yellow comes out about now. That would be great for Haflidason, because it then traps Bohlin. Well, he's now 1 lap down, so it wouldn't trap him 2 laps down, so it wouldn't be so bad. I saw a bit of smoke there from that solo down on towards the pit lane. Was a bit sketchy there, and actually Haflidason is in and also locked up down on towards the pit lane.
We saw Bohlin having some issues, and then we saw a couple of the Alcantech cars as well. Not an easy pit lane. Such a fast track. It might be a short track, but it's so fast. You really come into turn 3 very, very quickly. And of course, you do use the brakes here, but it's not like they're completely operational. So definitely not an easy one. We come down pit road on lap 136. Audson has the lead on the track. But by the time the pit stops all work themselves out, it should be Oliver Bohlin. And actually, this has worked out quite well because the offset hasn't been too much. There's been 6 laps only for Bohlin, whereas last time it was closer to 15 laps. So I think Bohlin might be a little bit okay. The difference here will be, obviously, the gap. He gained less time from the undercut, so the gap is going to be smaller. But then also the gain from Haflidason in behind is going to be smaller.
Yeah, so we're seeing what the gap is going to be. Of course, Haflidason still through 1 and 2 at the moment, down on the apron, waiting until the back straight to be able to join in. But that gap, what, 3.5? That's actually not bad for Haflidason.
That's worked out, I think, almost perfectly for the 81. We'll have to see just how much 6-lap fresher tyres is going to work, though. Is there going to be enough to chase down that gap? We're still waiting for some pit stops. We've got Aronson, Brewstrom, Hellbro, and Homer all staying out inside the top 4. They're all around the 60-lap mark on the stint, so they still have a little bit of time. We have 48 laps to go in this race, and we are still under green flag conditions. So everyone, I think we might just about get it so that everyone has a green flag pit stop in this race and can actually get to the end, which hasn't really ever happened so far this season.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to delve into the records, but yeah, it's green flag race all the way to the end. And it doesn't happen that often. We just saw 2 cars slap the wall. I have to be very careful with what I say here as Haflidason negotiate some of this traffic here. 3.7 behind Oliver Bohlin at the moment. Of course, that's not been reeled in too much because of the traffic situation here. But yeah, it's sketchy.
Certainly is. And yeah, we did have a completely green flag race, and Aronson won that. It was back at North Wilkes, but from memory there was no pit stop in that one. And talking of him, he comes down pit road in the 24 machine, but another short track, interestingly, that time around. So Aronson comes in, that leads Brewstrom, Helmbro and Homer still out there trying to go as long as possible, so it's just going to be that battle. The longer you go, the more track position you're going to lose with the undercut, but then they're going to be flying at the end of this race if they only have to do about 40 laps on the tyres.
Yeah, and of course, like I said, they're hoping for a caution at this stage as well. It will be put them in a really, 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 really good spot, especially for Broström and Holmer, particularly Holmer. A caution right now would be a gift from the gods as far as he's concerned. But yeah, we can't tempt fate at the moment. There's Oliver Bohlin to the inside of the 12. That is Marcus Hagman, who gets well out of the way. But that time back to Havlison is well, continuing to go down now.
Yeah, was it just shy of 2/10 on the previous lap, so the pace difference is there, and of course some traffic out there, but it's kind of the same for everyone at this point with how spread out the traffic is. So Bohlin just needs to try and hold on. Helmbro comes in, so that leaves two Bright Esports, the 71, 79 out with a 1-2 position, hoping for a caution, trying to go as long as they can in this race. But with them being, just about a lap or so ahead, they will of course be miles behind the leaders by the time they come out, losing 2 laps roughly for a pit stop around here. Here it is, Haflidsson. He's kind of in a world of his own as he chases down Bohlin. It's really slow, slowly but surely turning into this 2-horse battle at the front of this race.
It really has. No one's really been factoring into this at all, really. It's just been Haflidsson and Bohlin that have really shown that they're the ones that potentially, under normal circumstances, green flag runs, normal pace, that they're the ones that will be challenging for the race win here. And I don't see that changing unless we get a yellow at an awkward time. So, their situation is good, and also for Haflidsson, this is like still a very, very comfortable situation because even a P2 finish here will mean that he's in a spot where he can qualify into the. Actually, I'm going to double check that. I shouldn't be saying things too authoritatively. It should end up being fine, but of course he would want to make sure of it with a race win.
Yeah, I tell you, I reckon Haflidsson actually needs a race win, to be honest.
Yeah.
Purely because of the cars who are inside the top 5. So there's Blixt, who's on the cut line, and Haflidsson is 21 points behind him. So he does actually need to pretty much win the race to confirm it. If Blixt is going to continue basically not being last or being down towards the back. Whereas Blixt is 17th though. But that's only going to be a 16-point swing. So 16 positions, and let me just double check that. Yes, it'll be 16. So I reckon he does need to win. He
stage win though for Haflidsson.
Race. He
stage win though.
Stage win. That is very true. So there'll be some extra points gained from that, but still, that is getting very squeaky because he's going to need to get fastest lap and possibly the most laps led bonus points as well. So at that point, he's just got to go for the win, and that's why we love it. A non-championship driver is getting involved. But as you get to lap 150, we haven't had a caution yet. So we'll use this opportunity to take some messages from our partners as we bring you through the final stages here in Dover.
Behöver du en bil? Mabe hyrbilar finns på över 150 platser i landet och vi har nästan lika många modeller att välja på. Mabe hyrbilar. Hyrbilar som passar dig.
We come back to racing here for the Save the Scoring Pylon 300 at the perfect time, because the 81 machine of Michael Hafliderson is catching and has almost got the opportunity to get past Oliver Wallins. The first time of asking that he's got onto the back bumper of the 71, and that's a huge slide on the exit there. They touch coming down the back straight, and this is very important for Michael Hafliderson. He basically needs to win this race with how the points are working. Wallen, though, he's not in the championship fight, but he wants to get a race win himself. Up the inside is going to be for the 81, who's having to work hard for this. Oliver Wallen knows this is the best time for him to try and slow down the 81, who might just pull off into the sunset with the fresher tyres as they continue to go side by side in towards turn number 3. As I am so surprised how Wallen is trying to hold on to this, and as we come out through the exit of turn 4, he might just have to give up to this, but that's not without a rub.
Oh, it's so close. They're squeezing each other. It's just a car's width off the corners here, but I think Hafliderson will get it done fine without...
Oh my God, that wasn't without its drama whatsoever. Hafliderson, he's in the seat, the best seat in the house now. But, you know, with a handful of laps to go, got to keep it off the walls now.
And this is a big one for Hafley, because look at the gap behind these two. 14 seconds. That's about 3/4 of a lap almost, back down to Aurdson. So as long as he can hold off Wallen, he can just almost cruise towards the end of this race and remove a slight bit of risk, because he has the tyre. And I think just in general, the pace advantage of Oliver Wallen. Wallen has got himself into this position very nicely, but I think Hafley has been the faster one, despite being out on older tyres for so long during this race, being overcut. He's still being, still leading the race at this point. So I do think he has the pace.
Yeah, I think so too. Wallen's not able to keep up with him at the moment with the tyre disadvantage. Of course, Hafliderson dealing with a little bit of traffic at the moment, as that is actually Broström unlapping himself, getting through that. Back on the leading lap for Broström. And yeah, we'll have to see what the rest of this race holds now, because under normal conditions, under green flag conditions, I think Hafliderson has this.
And this is big as well for Alcantech, because if Hafley wins, then obviously the driver in 5th place, which is currently his teammate, Eric Blixt, would be knocked out. Blixt is only 2 points behind Aurdson and 3 behind Broström, but both of them are leading as well, or beating him as well, I should say, because Blixt is down in 16th place. And then the last position would, of course, be Jesper Eriksson, who is plenty of points ahead of that, despite being a little bit low down in P10. So I think as is looking, it's going to be Solo, Eriksson, and then, of course, it would be Hafliderson for winning, and then Aurdson just holding on, and Blixt will be missing out. So what a time to have probably his worst finish of the season down in that 16th place.
Yeah, it's awful. It really is. You got to take those on the chin. He spent a long time down on towards the pit lane last time as well. 54 seconds on the stop. Not ideal whatsoever for Eric Blixt down in that 16th spot. But yeah, you know, he's otherwise been so consistent over the course of this season, but when it matters, unfortunately, has come up a little short.
And for a driver who won the first race of the season and in general has been so strong, it just shows you how when you get to the playoffs, it's pretty much just one race at a time that matters. And even though each of these rounds has 2 races, it can all change very, very quickly. We come a bit further back. This is the battle for P8. The black and white machine of Tony Uvernen has Salander in the green and white. Alcantech chasing him down. These drivers a lap off the lead, but still, of course, fighting for their positions inside their top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see an angle towards the inside here from Salander, forcing Uvernen to go up towards the high side. They're going to be level coming off the corner here. Do you have to be careful as Uvernen tags the wall? Not the first time, probably won't be the last time as they continue on the fight through here.
And he should have this one done just about, but we do know that high line seems to be good to get the run onto the straight. So a bit of a wiggle there for the 140 as the 84 had a run, but he's gone too wide. And that's finally allowed the car length advantage for the 140. Maybe not, because once again, you get the good exits coming down the straights as the 140 might need just another couple of corners to try and get past as Uvinen once again goes a little bit wide as Solander confirms that P8.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to be a little bit patient. You know, these moves are not always going to happen within the first couple of moments. You really have to work at them for a couple of laps to make sure that you're ultimately successful, especially if the other driver is putting up a pretty stern defense. So, but in the end, with a couple of laps differential in the tires, Solander was able to get through an Uvinen and further inside the top 10. He goes, but we're coming up towards lap 170 now, so coming up to 17 laps to go, and have Flidderson 2.3 second advantage over Bohlin. That is very, very comfortable, very nice, under no pressure, no threat whatsoever at the front of the field. And this is a race that Flidderson really, really needed, especially being outside the cut line coming into the day.
Yes, he had no choice really but to win. Didn't quite appreciate that actually coming into the race. We didn't quite mention actually the severity of the situation where everyone from P6 to 10 basically needed a win just because that points gap is 18 points between 5th and 6th place. And with only 25 drivers out on the track, pretty much a race win is needed for them. And Haflidsson, who already won a race in the playoffs, might be able to make it 2 out of 4, and then he'll need to win one final race. Homestead Miami in a couple of weeks' time is the championship race. The AMRT Grand Final is coming your way on the 9th of May. And we are looking somewhat figured out at this point, but 16 laps to go. Just don't bin it if you are in that top 5 places. I say that as drivers are still slapping the wall.
Yeah, they absolutely are. I mean, that they have been since the drop of the green flag. No cautions up until this point as well. Fantastic to see from our drivers. It takes a big, field-wide effort for that to happen, especially when we're at a circuit as tricky as this one, which is known for its chaotic racing, is known potentially for being a bit of a caution fest. To go green flag pretty much all the way at a track, well, this track in particular, is quite an achievement.
I am so surprised, to be honest. I guess it is a track where you can't really go side by side so well, which does stop some, potential driver-to-driver contacts. But in terms of single driver incidents, we also haven't seen as many of them as I thought we were going to see, especially after Ericsson slapped the wall earlier, which unfortunately took Anton Uhrmann out of this race with the preceding contact. But certainly a difficult one indeed. We're on Barney watch as we are still waiting potentially for a first caution of the day, but some moves are coming in. Broström on the fresher tyres. He's chasing down Solo, who's also having a strong race up inside the top 5 after qualifying outside the top 10.
Yeah, and gets the run coming off the corner as well. Is able to get to the inside for 3 here. So Broström down the inside with a 12-lap tyre advantage. That's all you really need to know. Gets the pass done.
I tell you what, Linus always comes in, as we mentioned before, he's series admin, for those who don't know. And he comes in before our broadcast to give us any sort of final bits of advice or info that we need. And some races like, yeah, I'll speak to you later. Because, as if to say that we're going to be interviewing him. But today it was like, no, not sure, not thinking it. Wasn't feeling too good, but it may not be enough for a race win today, but this is still a strong performance from a driver who was really stuck in that mid-pack in the beginning part of the race.
Yeah, I mean, that just signals to me that potentially a little bit of a focus on qualifying for the final round would not go amiss, but, to try and get the best track position at the start, so you're not having to put yourself in a situation where you're having to climb through the field. But I'm pretty sure he already knows that, and probably will have something ready for Miami. But yeah, it's been a very, very good race currently for that 71, and top 5, really the best they could have asked for, I would have thought.
I think so. how far or how quickly is he going to be able to get up to Gunnarsson, who's actually having a very strong drive today? Just, I think, too many points off the cut line. Unfortunately, 43. So yeah, he also basically needed a win. But is Broström going to have enough time to get there? He was faster last time around, and he's got 13 lap fresher tyres. Do keep an eye on that Broström and Gunnarsson gap as you come into the final few laps of this race. Just holding on to the top 10 is Dan Holmer with Ericsson in behind him, but Holmer does have the pace advantage.
Indeed, but I think it's still not quite enough for Holmer in this situation. We'll see how the points work out, of course, but it's not looking particularly pretty at this stage, as you see Solo down the inside of, or rather, Elmbro down the inside of Solo there. As actually, am I getting the right way around? Yeah, it was Elmbro down the inside of Solo. As you know, again, the tyre differential really coming in there. There's 10 laps difference in between these drivers here at the moment. So obviously, Elmbro is going to stretch his legs at this stage, and we've got a bit of faster traffic coming up on behind here as well, which will go around the outside.
Yeah, the problem for Holmer as well is he's got 18 points to get to Blixt, which I can't exactly remember where they finished in the stage, but if he had been high up in the stage, then that would have actually been quite close, with Blixt being further down. His issue is that Haflidsson is going to jump him as well, winning this race. So it doesn't matter if he gets Blixt. All that will be is the battle for P6 and 7, rather than the battle between 5 and 6. So that is his biggest issue as we come into the final 5 laps of the race. So this is a big win from Haflidsson if he can manage to hold it the last few laps.
Yeah, looking pretty good at this stage. Very stable, very sensible. You know, not going to be attacking the circuit at this point, especially with a 3.6 second gap in the final stages. You just want to get it home at this point, and that's exactly what Haflidsson seems comfortable in doing here at the moment. No troubles coming off of turn 4, no sideways moments at all very stable.
And just the gap that he's pulled on the rest of the field. He wasn't really there in the opening part of the race. He was in P5. He was sat in behind, but he worked his way one by one, didn't get involved in the contacts, and is going to be taking a very well-respected win and a good time of the season to do it as well, as he's got a couple of miles to go before he sees Barney waving that checker and his gateway in towards Miami.
Yeah, what a performance. Just 2 more to go now at this stage for Haflidsson. He'll have his slot in the final race of the season to try and fight for a championship if he can come round one more time.
As the white flag comes out, and here we see the final lap of the race as the 81 is going to lead a full green flag race at Dover. Something you don't always see, especially in this championship. We've had races with 13 cautions, but none today, as the 81 does the best on the strategy, does the best on the pace, and he's going to keep it out of the walls to book his place in the final 5 at Miami. He joins Dan Solo and 3 friends in behind after we work out the points, but for today it's the 81 of Michael Haflidsson who wins here in Dover.
Impressive doesn't quite cut it. It was a lot of pressure put onto Haflidsson's shoulders as well, battling with Oliver Bohlin on the strategy, of course, but in the end, the call Haflidsson made and his pace came together to grab a race win here at a cautionless Dover. That is very impressive, as we'll burn it down.
So if we are correct on the maths, Ericsson is going to be enough ahead to book his 3rd spot. Broström with a top 5 should be good. And then Aronson as well. Yeah, it should be those 5. So Solo, Ericsson, Broström, Aronson, and then Michael Haflidsson from 7th place getting the race win jumps himself up. And the one driver missing out who was in the top 5 before the race is Eric Blixt, who struggled today. So the 95 winner of the first race of the season now falls short. And we have a very interesting combination of drivers in the final race. So that is 2 Alcantechs with Haflidsson and Solo. Then we have 2 4s of Ericsson and Aronson, and then 1 Bright Esports of Linus Broström. So 3 teams in the top 5 as all the teammates sit there at the at the stripe to view the 81 after the burnouts to see what is going to do. So yeah, confirmation from Brewstrom that is Solo, Hafley, Jesper Aronson and himself, Linus Brewstrom. Here's the results though. After 187 clean, well, not quite clean, but a green flag racing that we saw, the caution never came out. The 81 won in the end by almost 5 seconds to Bohlin, who almost got that race win, but unfortunately just struggling on the slightly older tyres at the end. Aronson got third, Gunnarsson is in fourth, and Linus Brewstrom gets a top 5 finish to book himself a place in Miami. Helmbro's in 6th place, Solo, Salander, Holmer and Uvenen round out your top 10, with Marcus Hogman getting the fastest lap on lap 6, but not featured amongst the top positions, as you do have to shout out the likes of Uvenen, Salander and co up there, not being playoff drivers, but getting inside the top 10 today. Ericsson with another slightly disappointing performance, but he has the points. He just needs to work out his consistency and his pace coming in towards the final race. Brewstrom, Ericsson, Zackerson, Blixt with a disappointing day down in 15th place. Johansson, Schott, Erling, Kennetier, Marcus Hogman there, 5 laps down in P20. And then the final few drivers at the end, of course, are going to be Lundberg, Skoglund, who's a DNF, with Holmbaum, who we didn't really mention today, Fagerl as well. And then Anton Orman, unfortunately, however, a bit of a side slap from Jesper Eriksson, got damage and went out of the race. 155 laps to go. So there's a lot to discuss and work out. So first, when we get to the interviews, we'll bring in, of course, the race winner of Michael Haflidsson in the 81 machine. And Michael, what a time to get another race victory. You won the first round of the playoffs in Chicagoland, and you got your second win in the playoffs here at Dover. But with the point situation, you pretty much needed the win today.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we calculated basically if I wouldn't have won, I needed second place with Linus, Arielsson and Holmer basically crashing on lap 1, which obviously didn't happen. So yeah, getting the win is really nice, and at a point we really needed it, and I think I really showed like I can manage my tires really good today, which is really good for Miami.
Yeah, absolutely. You went so long on that first stint. You got the stage win as well, so congratulations, and the bonus points
Thank
that
you.
come with that. How was it going 77 laps around here? I mean, we saw the likes of Jesper. I mean, he was already struggling after about 50 laps.
Yeah, Jesper was struggling way before. It was lap 20. I'd already seen him in the wall a few times. I don't know why he couldn't keep his tires alive today, but yeah. I had like 0.5 liters left when I pitted, so I couldn't really go another lap. It was all about just coming to the end of the stage and seeing where I finished before pitting. And then obviously later in the race, when Oliver obviously had gone in on lap 50-ish before and he pitted earlier, I kind of had to cover that to be safe to get the win.
Yeah, certainly work it out quite well for you. So how do you feel in yourself coming into Homestead Miami? You've had to do this the hard way, getting the win, but you're still in position and you're still realistically going to need to win the race, obviously, once again. So what is your focus? Are you going to be trying to focus on qualifying to start at the front, or is it going to be all about the long run pace and the tyre wear again?
I mean, it's going to have to be both. I mean, you got to be up there, because if there is an incident, there's more likely to be one in the middle, which I don't want to be in. I've been at Miami last season. I actually won it, starting from like P20, but I do not want to do that again. I'd rather start from the front than try to win it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race. So, Michael, congratulations, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the championship decider.
Thank you so much.
And then next, we'll bring in the blue machine of Bright Esports, Oliver Wallen in the 72. And Oliver, once again, a strong performance for you. The last sort of 5-10 rounds, you've really been coming very fast in this series. What do you think you could have done today to try and get that win? Because to be honest, the undercut actually probably secured that second place. But was there anything that you could have done to get Michael in that last stint?
Yeah, well, was very difficult to hold on to the lead when Hafley came. He was too fast today. But yeah, I tried the other strategy, not going for the stage, not in the playoffs. So we just try something different, and it worked out really well. It was just not really enough.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough one around here, but your pace is still looking good. So I know you're not in the championship, but how are you feeling? Maybe looking into the future, because you're really getting quite fast in this series.
Yeah, thanks. It feels like I'm getting more confident car, and we'll see if I join the series from the start next season. We'll see if I will be in a different position at this time of the season then.
Yeah, we look forward to it. Congratulations on your P2, and I'm sure we'll see you contending for the race win again in Miami.
Thank you very much.
And then next, we'll bring in Alex Aronson, of course, in the 24 machine. Couple of race wins so far this season. Not today, Alex, but still a very strong performance. And you are still in the championship race, so that's the important part, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main part, and that was the goal of today. I knew coming into the race, based on the practice race we had on Monday, that 81 car was really fast. So I kind of thought that I won't even race him. I'll race the 95 and the 71, and as long as I finish ahead of those two guys, then I'll be in the final. So that was the goal coming to today, and I was able to accomplish that.
Yeah, so your goal was completed for today. Looking forward to Miami, you are basically going to need to win the race to realistically try and win, of course. How are you going to focus? Because your main rival now for the championship is your teammate. Are there any team orders? Is it all just every man going for themselves?
Well, that remains to be seen who is the fastest at Homestead. I don't think I raced there last time we went there in the Swedish iRacing League, but I'm pretty confident that I'll have decent pace. I've had good finishes in the last couple of races there in a different league that I run. So hopefully I'll go pace this time as well, and I'll be in with a shot at winning.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think the race situation is going to be? Are the other drivers going to be fully aggressive from what you've thought? Is it going to get a bit dirty?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it all depends on how the race pans out. If we get a lot of cautions or if we get long runs or whatever we get. But I mean, Homestead is a racy track with multiple grooves. You can run high, you can run low. So I think it's a good track to have the final at.
Yeah, good stuff. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks for that final race. Congratulations today.
See you. Thank you.
And one driver I'm quite interested to speak to. Yes, but sorry for jumping in on you there. But I just had to ask you today, slight struggles as you've had all throughout the playoffs. Just what was going on inside that 37 machine?
Oh man, I have not had time to practice at all. This week has been quite chaos. So first couple of laps was during the practice today, and to be honest, this is a track that I'm not really big of a fan of to drive on. It's fun, but it's quite technical and hard just because you get so loose out of two, and I just could not get the rears to stick out of two, and kind of just wanted to drift the car and hit the wall. And then had to drive with toe damages all throughout the race.
Yeah, we saw you, or at least you didn't seemingly have any sort of damage repairs, or at least none that sort of added time at the pit stops. So just how was that car afterwards, especially when you had that big contact with Anton towards the first part of the race?
Well, I could feel the right rear being pushed in, so that the toe was quite weird. So the car got quite a lot of... It got a lot more rotation throughout the corners, which really helped me with new tires. But then later on the run, just could not get the tire wear to stabilize, because right rear tire just weared a hell of a lot quicker than all of the other tires and overheated. So I just couldn't get the balance right, and it was quite sketchy just keeping a straight line. So that was kind of my struggle throughout the race. If that wouldn't have happened, maybe I could have been top 5, but I hoped for a caution to just repair some of it, but these guys, we have just gone too stable at the moment during the races. We need more cautions.
I'm sure there'll be a few in Miami. And talking of that, you said you were under prepared today. Surely you've got to do some practice because you got a target on your back. You have a bit of margin in the points, but everyone is going to be going for that race win. So of course you need to win. How can you manage to work your way into that P1 position?
Practice, to be honest. I just need to practice. That's kind of just the main thing. Practice. But it's going to be hard to practice at the moment. I'm not so motivated for it. So we can see how it happens through all of the playoffs. Just like last season, I've just struggled. As soon as the first race of the playoff comes, I don't know what happens, but it feels like I'm getting slower and everyone else is getting so much faster.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. So we wish you luck, and we'll speak to you, I'm sure, in Miami.
Hopefully, yeah.
And then lastly, to bring in the final driver that we'd like to speak to is Linus Rostrom, the number 71. Linus, I wanted to speak to you because you got P5 in the end. And to be honest, you had quite a nice strategy today. You had the newer, faster tyres at the end, and you made some good moves to catch up in that last sort of 20 laps.
Yeah, this was a very strange race from the start. I think most people would have expected quite a few cautions and going caution free at Dover. That's kind of weird. But yeah, I pitted really late for the final pit stop. I was expecting all the playoff drivers to stay out a bit longer since you go 2 laps down from pitting. But then everyone pitted, and the main guys that I was racing was Alex and Blixt, and I needed to beat one of them. So when I saw that Blixt got a speeding penalty or whatever, I just decided to stay out until I was going to be basically a whole lap down pitting since I could, because if there's a caution, I'm going to be among 3 cars on the lead lap on fresh tires, and I might have a chance to win. So I was playing this whole race out against 2 drivers, and in the end it turned out well for my 100% Sweden Brady Sports Camaro, so I'm happy.
Yeah, and you're looking good. You're looking fast coming in towards the final race. So a lot less admin to do after the race today with the lack of incidents. So more time to prepare for Miami. What do you think your chances are of winning this championship?
As of now, it's about 1%. And then it's probably going to increase about 1% for every 50 laps that I can turn or something. I mean, one of the 3 oval tracks that I hate is Homestead Miami Speedway. So I'm basically putting 0 pressure on myself, and whatever position I can get above P5 is a bonus for me. So, but I'm going to practice as much as I can and see if I can figure it out, and hopefully I'll be able to fight for the championship. I'm expecting that race to be pretty much like this one. So tire saving is going to be crucial, but then obviously us in the playoffs in that race don't race for the stage points, so we don't really need to care about that. So can put up a strategy and just go by it and hope that the cautions fall right.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. We can't wait for the final race of the season, so thanks for speaking to us, Linus.
Thank you so much.
So let's see how the playoffs are looking, and some official, unofficial confirmation before the official results and the penalties are decided. But it does look like it's going to be these 5. Dan Solo, who won the previous race, then Michael Havlison, and then on points, it is going to be Ericsson, Aronson, and Brewstrom joining them for the championship final in Homestead, Miami, and it is in just a couple of weeks' time. Not long to wait, and of course, no Formula 4 next week to practice for either, so it's going to be all focused on the NASCAR Cup Series for these drivers to find out the champion of the Bohlin's Svenska Eracingligan's season for the 2023-24 championship. And we can't wait to see what's going to happen. 9th of May, 8 p.m. But until then, it's been myself, Cameron Roger, Connery Maddock alongside me in the commentary box, and Dane Baird on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast. And after 187 laps of green flag racing, it was the 81 machine locking his place into the final 5. And let's see in a couple of weeks who is going to get this championship.